All right, so I've got a 2023 Maserati Grecale Trofeo with a 3-liter twin-turbo V6 all-wheel drive in the shop today for front and rear brakes and a brake fluid exchange. So first things first, you're going to pull the wheel off, right? I like to use non-marring lug sockets. Obviously, your mileage may vary. You can use whatever you'd like. But basically, once you get the wheel off, this is what you're going to be presented with, this setup right here. So first things first, this is going to be your brake wear sensor, right? You're going to see it. It's going to have a little, it's kind of hard to see. You can see a little slot in the bottom where my thumb is at. And it's going to look like this right here. It's going to be sitting on this tab. If I can get it back on. Just like that. And it's going to be zip tied, a little baby zip tie right here. You're just going to cut the zip tie per the factory instructions. And just this slides right off. And then of course you can disconnect it. The connector is right here. You're just going to lift up on this tab and it just slides right apart. Once that's off, you're going to take a small punch and a hammer of some kind. Make sure you don't mar the paint. You're just going to hit right here and you're going to knock that lock pin back through. You're going to do that for the top and the bottom. And then on the back here, I believe this is a 13 millimeter, right? Where my finger is kind of hard to see. Right there. I believe that's a 13 millimeter. You're going to undo that. Let me go ahead and take these off real quick, and I'll come back to it. So once you have this bolt loose, you're going to do it by hand. It's very small. And this whole pin, it only fits in one way, so it can't rotate, right? So when it goes back in, you can't mess it up. It only goes back in one way. I'm just going to pull this out here. It's a little tight. There's some buildup. Sorry, I got some background noise here at the shop today. Might have to use a little bit of a, it's hard, I'm holding the camera with one hand here. Give me 2 seconds. You might use a pair of pliers. The other side slid right out. Just depends how, gunked up with stuff it is. You can see it's moving back and forth, but it doesn't quite want to come out yet. Time before I do that, here's the punch I'm using, right? It's an old Craftsman. 530 seconds, pretty small. And it lines up perfectly right there on the end. And it's just small enough that the punch will actually go through the hole in the caliper without getting the paint. Just going to take a hammer, you're going to give it one good whack, and I'm going to show you what it looks like afterwards. But as you can see, the punch was able to go all the way through, and there's the pin now, right? So it's all the way out, and then you can really just grab it with one hand in the back and just kind of work it loose, right? It's kind of tight, so you got to play with it a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and undo this bottom one, and once that's loose and that's loose, I'll grab some pliers and pull this out, and then after that, this entire retention spring, it's called a spring clip, you can just pull that right out. So you might have better luck knocking out the springs first. The other side I didn't remove, or sorry, not the springs, the locking pins. I didn't remove the locking pins first. I did this first, it came out no problem. On this side, it seems like it can come, came right out no problem once these lock pins were out. So you're just gonna make this nice and clean, use a rag and some brake clean, get rid of all that brake dust. And then on these pins right here, I'm just going to work them. You can see how I can slowly, because I already knocked it through as much as I can through this hole, so I can't hit it anymore, right? It's about as far through as I can get it. So these pins right here, you can play with them a little bit. Again, I'm using one hand, so it's difficult. But I'm going to push on the spring clip to relieve some tension, and that should enable me to pull this lock pin out, no problem. So once you get the pin out, you can see it's gone. My spring clip just fell. Not a lot of tension on it, but there's enough that it just falls out of the way, and it'll just drop. It's not a big deal. We're not reusing that. The parts that I ordered, they actually came with new spring clips and new lock pins as well, so we don't have to worry about that. So just gonna get rid of these. I'm gonna leave them off to the side for now, just in case the factory ones don't, or the new ones don't work as good as the OEs. So we'll see. So this is how it's gonna look. Brake sensor is gonna be clipped in right there. Just gonna pop that out. And then these pads right here, it's going to take a little bit of work, right? Because the pistons aren't quite retracted yet. And I don't really care too much about that. I have a tool that's going to, retract those pistons for me. But right now, we're just going to have to wiggle them. Again, using one hand, very difficult. So when you put the camera down, I'm just going to kind of shake these out just like that. Sure, your customers are paying good money for this service, unless you're doing a DIY, of course. But, just for, quality of work and looks, I put a little bit of detailer on clean microfiber, and I just make sure this is all as cleaned up as I can get it, right? You do not want to use brake clean. Brake clean is made of a lot of different kinds of petroleum, like toluene and Some of them have like butane and all kinds of stuff in them, and it's basically just a bunch of different fuels. And it can actually etch and eat the paint right off these calipers if you let it stay on long enough. Better safe than sorry. Just don't do that. So just polish everything up nice. Whether it's your car or a customer's car, you know, whatever the case may be. Just make sure it's nice. Don't get the detailer on the piston face. You know, you don't want anything slick on that. But everywhere else, try to get it nice. Now you do need to take just a dry part of the rag that does not have a chemical on it, right? Just a clean part of the rag. And where the pads sit, right inside there, you want to clean that really well. You can see all the crap to prevent any noise, and make sure the new pads are able to sit smoothly. And I mean, they're not in there like, you know, super duper tight, right? So because of that, they do move a little bit. So make sure if they have to move a little bit, they move smoothly. So I'm kind of fighting with this here to get this nice and clean. Sorry, I dropped my rag. Let's get this pretty well done. And then once you're all clean here and everything is, you know, up to the standard that you want it, get your pad areas clean on top too. Once everything is as clean as you can get it, what you want to do is this caliper is going to come off to remove the rotor. This is a small Allen key. I'll get the exact size here in 2 seconds. It's sitting on my lift arm here. And the Allen I'm using, it is a size 5. So it's a 5mm Allen. It fits right in there. The torque spec on this is 62 inch-pounds when you put this back together. So just hand tight, like just kind of snug it. Doesn't have to, you know, you don't have to go crazy on no impact guns, anything like that. And then you have these right here, which are T55s. So you're going to break these loose. They're very long bolts, and when you get these out, your caliper is actually attached via a hard line. So this is not a rubber line like on most cars, and the caliper is going to hang. It's really not going to. It's kind of stuck where it is. You don't want to let it hang too far. It'll actually bend to that hard line. So I have a couple of zip ties because my hanger is not quite long enough. My hanger is about that long. So I'm going to hook the hanger under the caliper, like where my thumb is. And then I tie a couple zip ties to it to make sure I can anchor it up here to where the upper ball joint is on the upper control arm. Just to kind of hold it where it's at, so it doesn't, you know, bend the line or anything. And that will enable me to undo this bolt, get the rotor right off. It comes off super easy. All right, so you can see I've got my hanger holding the caliper with a couple zip ties to make sure it doesn't move anywhere. You don't have to do this. This is just good practice. I've got a little wheel. You can actually buy these online. They're actually called a brake hub cleaner. This is from Lyle, I believe. You just want to make sure this is nice and polished. Wear some safety glasses because these little blue bristles, they have a habit of breaking off and hitting and it hurts. So yeah, you just want to make sure that you get a lot of the rust off of here. Again, this is not going to look brand new, of course, right? You just want to get it pretty good. This material is not hard enough to actually take any of the metal off. So it's not damaging the hub, it's not damaging anything like that. It's just enough that, you know, you're getting it pretty good. And then of course I'm going to go over this as well, the actual lip, and then I'm going to apply some anti-seize grease right there. New rotor back on. These are coated rotors. It'll actually tell you on the rotor box, do not spray with brake clean because these are coated. Many rotors you would take like an oil or film on them. These you do not. The bolt holes have a little chamfered edge. Those are not for the lugs. The lugs are the larger ones. You're going to use one of the bolt holes with the chamfered edge to line up with where the retaining bolt goes. Again, the retaining bolt is torqued to 62 inch-pounds. Get the rotor on and you get it torqued. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to cut these zip ties so I don't need them anymore. And then the caliper, I'm going to hold the caliper with one hand, cut the zip ties with another, and then line the caliper back up and start threading in those large bolts, which I forgot to show them to you guys. They're quite large, a couple inches long at least, probably 3 inches long, and they are a T55, and they go right in, sorry, it's really hard, it's right here. Yeah, there. Alright, so we're back, we're ready to torque it. I'm running a snap-on tech angle, you might have something different. It is set to 77 foot-pounds. Just gonna line this thing right up. I already got them kind of snug, just a little bit by hand, just to make sure that they're not gonna move anywhere, you know? And then, it's quite the torque spec, especially when you're doing it one-handed, holding the phone. There we go. I'm just gonna repeat that. Now we're ready to go ahead and recompress these pistons. You can see how out they are, right? So I'm using another Lyle tool. I don't remember the exact part number on this. Just look up Lyle piston spreader. You use this for fixed calipers like this, where the regular one that you would use on single pistons won't obviously fit in there. It's got a swivel head and everything. It's pretty nice. So just gonna fit this in here. Let me recompress it real quick. If you're using hand tools at home, screwdrivers, 2 cross screwdrivers will work. You're going to fit one on one side and one on the other side. Put like a small block of wood in between, and then use a screwdriver and just kind of cross them with your hands, just like that with them. Sorry, it's hard to see. Again, I'm using one hand. It's very difficult. So I'm going to fit this around the rotor here. You don't want to mar the rotor up. You can see that I'm in between all of them, right? And I'm right on the money here with them. Be careful with your tool. You don't hit the caliper, right? So there's a little bit of space between my caliper and the tool. You can see it's very tight, but I'm not hitting it, and that's the crucial part. Just gonna go ahead and compress. Let's see. Got it mostly back. That one at the bottom is being a little bit of a pain on both sides. Oh, that one right here popped out too. So you can use a little pry tool if this tool is acting up for you. It's only meant for 4 pistons. My 6 piston one's actually broken right now, so I'm kind of making this work. But you can use screwdrivers for the remaining one if it's not working for you, which is probably what I'm about to do. And then I'll show you how to slide the pads in. New pad. I applied a little bit of brake lubricant along the top of the pad here, and make sure you do not actually touch the pad surface. You can see it's just on the actual metal on the backing plate. So the service manual actually doesn't call for that. It's just a habit of mine. Once you have the pistons compressed, you can see this just slides right in, super easy. You're going to do the same thing with this side. You get them in, the wire should be facing up top, right here, and it's just going to fit right here in that little gap, just like that. You're going to go ahead and take your connector. This is just like the OEM ones, except you're not going to zip tie anything this time. And you're just going to fit it, kind of twist it. There's a little, you have your connector, there's a little tab right there. You can see the little shark fin looking thing. You're going to fit that, just like I showed you at the beginning of the video, right back on this metal right here. There you go, and it'll fit just like that. And then you take your factory sensor, it's going to fit right in there. Boom, it's in. You can see it's over the shark fin. It's not going anywhere. We're good. So take the hanger out. So we already torqued that one to 77. This one is torqued to 77. All that's left to do is to put the pins back in and the spring clip in the middle. So the spring clips only go one way, the lock pins only go one way. So you don't have to lubricate them or anything. It's not required. You're going to slide them right in just like that. The pin comes out that way, and it should line up right there through that hole. So once you have one, sorry, I'm working with 2 hands here. Once you have one spring, or once you have one lock pin in, you're going to go ahead and put this in, the spring clip. It's going to go down. That little triangle shape is going to go toward the rotor. You're going to fit it just like that, right? You don't want to get the whole thing in just yet, because we still have to put this bar back in there, because this bar goes under that spring clip. So let me clean this bar up real quick, and then we'll put that in. So I got this as cleaned up as I could, putting it back in. You can see that it only goes one way, right? It's the way it has to go. So you can't like get this cockeyed, it just will not go. So once that's all in, I'm gonna go ahead and put that bolt in the back here. You're gonna wanna push down on this just like that with one hand, and then use your second hand to push that lock pin in through the back. But once you have the pins in, you can see it's not through all the way. See how it's flush right there? You want that all the way through. You can see how far this is sticking out. So I'm going to take my punch, put it in the back of here, and just give it a light tap with a little rubber dead blow hammer, just to push it all the way through. You can see how there's a little lip right there. That's the recessed part that actually fits in the inside of the caliper. So you're going to push that all the way through until it stops. This is what it should look like when you're all done. Torque to spec, 62 inch-pounds, 77 foot-pounds on both of these. Brand new spring clip is in, brand new lock pins. You should see the tip all the way out, but to the flanged part should be coming out of the hole right there. You can see here's what your back looks like. Remember I showed the recess side earlier, it's sitting on that right now. Brand new spring clip, brand new lock pins, everything torqued to spec. You are not going to zip tie your aftermarket ones. You can see there's a lot of tension on this line. If you zip tie it, you could break the sensor. So we're just going to leave it running like this, fit right there in that little hole. Make sure this is all connected. And this side is complete. We'll go over wheel specs once I get it off the lift, because right now this is on the lift. Working from home might be a little different, of course. We'll go over jack points and wheel torque at the end of the video. Almost forgot to mention this bar right here, the bolt, the 13 millimeter on the backside. It is a 30 foot-pound torque spec. get the wheel off, that's what you're gonna be looking at. It's imperative that you put the car into brake service mode through the menu that was shown at the beginning of the video. Otherwise, this caliper is not going to come off. This is your e-brake right here. You don't have to retract anything manually by hand. You don't have to touch this at all unless you're changing these pads out or something. Otherwise, you hit brake service under the settings menu. I'll show you where that is at the beginning of the video. And then this, you just kind of wiggle it and it'll come off once you get these out. These are T47s, actually. Kind of an odd number. They're right here. And it is kind of hard to see. It's very hard to see, actually. It's right below this wire, basically. So you don't have to worry about undoing the connectors. You don't have to mess with anything, right? Basically, from this end, you're going to go ahead and undo your wear sensor, just like that. Notice there is no zip tie on the back one. And then this just slides right off the tab. Just like that. Boom, done. So once that's out of the way, then you have these. These are actually Allens on the back. I have to look at my socket to tell you guys what size they are, but you're going to undo both of these, and the pads do not come out of the back, actually. That is a solid bar. It's part of the caliper. They come out of the front of the caliper. So the caliper has to come off to do the pads. So let me go ahead and show you guys that. So this is a 10 millimeter. I have this on the end of my impact here. I'm just going to... It's pretty tight otherwise. I'm not going to take it all the way out. I just want to... There you go. Get them loose. Once I get those off, then I'm going to go ahead and hang the caliper. There's a support ring up here we can hang it on. That's metal right here. It's part of the frame. I'm going to put it right there. Bolts are even longer than the last ones. These are probably a solid 5 inches long, and they're going to go right in there. Before you get the bottom one out, what you want to do is just like in the front. You want to go ahead and knock these lock pins out. You don't have a spring clip on the back. It's on the inside. It is still on the back, but you can't remove it from the back like you could on the fronts. This one is going to come out that way, toward the front of the caliper, toward the rotor. So I'm going to go ahead and knock these pins out and then pull that other one out. See, I left it loose, but the caliper's still on here so I can hit these. You can see the spring clip right there. I'm going to replace that, and then you have to actually do everything from the inside. So this is where my 4-piston one will work great. Pushes evenly on all of these. It'll push them back. And then after that's done, we're going to go ahead and put the new pads in and everything right here on the back before we move on to anything else. In the meantime, though, just to show you guys, I'm going to go ahead and break these loose, these bolts right here. These T47s, and I'm going to go ahead and wiggle this off and get this rotor off before I show you guys moving on to the installing the pads inside. So it's kind of hard to do with only one hand, but you get the bolts. This one does not come out all the way because it's going to hit on the bag, right? For your air suspension. So you're going to get it out, you're going to leave it in there. You're just going to kind of rock the caliper, the e-brake caliper, and it'll come right off. Same thing here in the back. It is a 5 millimeter Allen. You're going to undo that, and the rotor will just pop right off. Just like we did in the front, we're going to polish the hub, put on some anti-seize, put the new rotor on. The spec is the same, 62 inch-pounds. So once you get these back in, I just get them in by hand as far as they go. The torque spec on these is 30 foot-pounds plus 45 degrees. They sell angle gauges if you don't have a torque wrench that has it built in, or I mean, it doesn't have to be super perfect, right? But you know you want a 45 degrees, right? So like that's a full 90, right? So just good half turn, right? That would be your 45 degrees close you can get it if you don't have the necessary stuff. I would recommend buying a torque wrench that does do angle though. They sell them, cheap now at Harbor Freight. I think they're $360 for a torque wrench now that does angle and everything. So get them as tight as you can by hand. Hit them there with, you can see the other bolt right there, 30 foot-pounds and 45 degrees. Same thing as before. You're going to go ahead and slide the pads in. The wire comes through. There's a little groove right here for it. I got to clean off these calipers in the back still, so wire pops in. And then you're going to go ahead, again, the little shark fin faces out. You're going to fit this right here. It'll slide right on, connect your sensor. Boom. And then these, of course, you're going to torque. These are also 77 foot-pounds. And then once you have that all done, just make sure you clean up your caliper really well. Again, these are 30 with 45 degrees. And these are 77 foot-pounds, just like the front. And then this is 62 inch-pounds. So that's the 3 main torque specs that you need. Once you're actually ready to do this, what you're going to do, you have your lock pins, right? Lock pins are going to go in this way right here, right? And so you're going to fit them in the hole in the back. And you're going to notice they don't really line up, right? So what you can do, you can actually grab a little screwdriver, a pair of pliers, and pull on the ear of the pad right here, pull it back a little bit to get this pen through. And then when it comes to the front one, it's still not going to want to go through. So you can actually push on the front of the pad here, which is your hand. You don't need a lot of force to push the pad back to enable that lock pin to go through those grooves.